Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Brian Crombie Radio Hour on Saga 960. We're talking about Living Luxe magazine tonight with the publisher, Jennifer Lipkowicz, who has joined us again for, I think, the third time to tell us about this magazine. She launched the magazine during COVID-19. It's been a real challenge, and she's grown the business very successful. And Jeannie Becker, who is the author of the cover story in this most recent edition, was the author of a cover story just about a month or so ago, and obviously needs no introduction because she's renowned in fashion and music and lots of different things in Canada and around the world. And it's a real pleasure to have her on my show again. So Jennifer, maybe just tell us what's the cover story and what's the magazine about this edition?
So first of all, it's our spring publication. It's coming out this Thursday, March 25th. So we're really, really excited to have the spring issue out. We have an amazing cover that we just released actually on Instagram. Ferris Raffaoli, who's just such a talented designer and artist and just a creative genius, in my opinion. And we're really excited and very proud to have him featured on the cover of Living Luxe magazine. And honestly, he's done some amazing achievements in his life. And, you know, we'll talk about that a little bit more, I imagine.
We will. And what else have you got in the magazine this time?
So we have a lot of, oh my God, Jeannie did another story that she'll share as well about this wonderful woman. So I'll pass that to Jeannie, but she featured a lovely woman who's just so talented and just an incredible woman. And wow, like I can't even, you know, it was just a beautiful segment that she did right in the magazine. And she's the Dean of OCAD. And I'll let Jeannie sort of explain who she is and obviously what the story's all about. But I read it and I was truly amazed by what
Jeannie Becker, could you tell us a little bit about being an author of two different articles in the magazine?
Well, I'm just a glutton for work, I guess. You know, Jennifer assigns me these stories and I hop to it. I've been writing for Living Luxe since the very beginning, since we launched the magazine. And it's just a great joy because I get to stretch my boundaries a little bit. I mean, a lot of people know me as a writer of fashion stories, and I like to do so much more than that. I'm actually the lifestyle editor for Living Luxe, if we care about titles. But I've been writing about design and I've been writing about art for the magazine, and that's subject matter that I really love. I find it very inspiring.
And who is this individual? There was a female about OCAD that you said that you interviewed?
For this issue, I also got the chance to write a feature story about one of my favorite people, a magnificent woman by the name of Dean Dory Tunstall. She's the Dean of Design at OCAD University. She is the first Black Dean of Design anywhere in the world. Pardon me. She's very proud of that. And Dory is just a force to be reckoned with because she's a cultural anthropologist who really celebrates life and the sartorial joy of life. She dresses amazingly. If you follow her on Instagram, your like eyeballs would fall out of their sockets because she just puts on a show for everybody. She's just a wonderful, brilliant person. She's very much into the decolonization of design and design education. She's done a lot of work in that field. She's a Stanford educated, brilliant woman. And we're just really lucky to have her at OCAD. I received an honorary doctorate at OCAD a couple of years back, and she actually presented it to me on stage and introduced me, and it was a great moment. And that was the first time I met her. And she has just kept me inspired and entertained ever since.
Fantastic. I look forward to reading the edition. Sounds wonderful. We're going to take a break for some messages and come back more with Jennifer Lipkowicz, the publisher of Living Luxe magazine, and Jeannie Becker, the author of the cover story, in just a minute. Stay with us. Welcome back to the Brian Crombie Radio Hour. We're talking tonight with Jennifer Lipkowicz, who is the publisher of Living Luxe magazine, a new magazine that's recently launched during COVID-19, and that's a story into of itself. And she successfully launched a magazine into a different and interesting genre. I'd love to hear a little bit about that, Jennifer. And Jeannie Becker, who is renowned and is the author of the cover story. So maybe Jennifer, just to start off with, tell us, what was it like launching a magazine during COVID-19? Bit of a challenge?
So actually, I launched it a little bit before, obviously, the pandemic. So it launched September September, almost 2 years ago, actually. So about a year and a half ago, and it was before the pandemic. So thankfully, I didn't know that COVID-19 was going to hit us. And we launched 3 publications back when we started it a year and a half or so ago. And then obviously the pandemic hit spring last year in 2020. So that was a bit of a shock. I didn't have that in my forecast, that's for sure. And we put out our issue that had Cheryl Hickey on the cover. And then right afterwards, we were actually in May putting out our kitchen and bath issue. That was right when the pandemic was happening and things were locked down with schools and everything really. And we published that magazine. And then, then we recently published the September issue that came out, the winter issue that you interviewed me about with Studio Munge, Alessandra Munge, who's on the cover, also a very talented designer. And now our spring issue is coming out this Thursday. So if you think about it, we've now put out 5 magazines during COVID.
Excellent.
Or actually out of the 8 publications. So, we haven't really stopped. We're now working on our kitchen and bathroom issue, which is coming out in May, and then our summer publication in June. So we really haven't stopped. And, we're very, very fortunate to be in a space where, we cover home decor. We also cover lifestyle, more in the luxury market. But I find that it is relevant to the reader. And I think people right now, while they're at home, they look forward to, receiving magazines or reading books, especially now that they're at home a little bit more. And I think people are excited. Like, I have the privilege of getting to know my readers a little bit. I'm getting a lot of emails and social media messages, and it's really nice to hear from the people that read your product. And, it resonates with me, and I'm very grateful to do what I do every day.
Excellent. Jeannie Becker, tell us a little bit about the cover story, if you could.
Well, we decided to profile a very exciting architectural designer by the name of Ferris Raffoli, who grew up in Toronto, actually outside Toronto in Oakville. And he was always encouraged by his parents to pursue his dream, whatever that would be. And they nurtured his talents. And he used to advise his dad on the suits that his dad was wearing when he was a young boy. So he always had this penchant for style and for design. And wow, by the time he was like 18 years old, he started working in the construction business and he started designing residences. And not too long ago, he designed the residence for Drake. So that really put him on the map. I mean, he has a roster of incredible clients all over the world now, and he's designing these absolutely astounding, luxurious residences that are just, mind-blowing. Like, Drake's home cost something like $100 million, right? Like, it's just inconceivable. But now beyond that, really as a result of this fantasy project that he got to do for Drake, and that's located on the Bridle Path in Toronto, that very ritzy neighborhood. And it's a home that has like a actual basketball court in it. Yeah. And it has a home that has a movie theater in it. And a home that has a spa in it. And it's just, beyond the beyond. And, your wildest imagination. That's what this caters to. But because he worked with Drake, and Drake wanted some very fancy gizmos at his house. For example, he did this collaboration with Cornu, which La Cornu makes the most fabulous, and they have for many, many, many decades, ovens for people's homes, right? Like appliances. And he did this collaboration. So he created this incredible stove that's now worth something like $500,000. And this oven is actually now being manufactured. The first one was done for Drake's home, but now it's being manufactured in France, where the company has been since its inception. And there's a lineup of people a waiting list for this extraordinary appliance. And it's just great to think that a Toronto boy is really working with that kind of a company, which is so prestigious. He's also involved with a bed manufacturer that is out of Sweden. And these beds are, is it Sweden, Jens? Or I forgot now.
I think it's Hastings.
Yeah, Hastings, yes. And it is an amazing bed company. He's designed a bed that's worth $400,000.
A bed that's worth $400,000.
Yeah, the bed itself.
That's right.
Is worth $400,000 US. It's like $500,000 for this bed that weighs,
You must sleep
like
real well in that bed for it to be worth
it weighs
$400,000
like a
US.
couple of tons or something. Yeah, I mean, so I mean, he's really pushing the parameters and really just doing the most outrageous design. And listen, it's to me, at first, when I was assigned this story, I thought, wow, okay, obviously it's going to be a great story. That being said, this kind of opulence at a time when so many are suffering, and at a time when so many, can't even afford to pay the rent, and so many people have lost their jobs. And so, how appropriate is this to be featuring something of that nature? But then I thought, no, you know what? It really, it's inspiring. It's aspirational. Obviously, it is a fantasy. Most of us can't, really relate to it at all. But it's interesting to see how the other half lives. It's an entertainment, wonderful kind of diversion, if you will. And it's just incredible that there are a lot of people out there, obviously, with that kind of money that get to live in these palatial estates, and
Did you get
Drake
to tour?
is one of them.
Did you actually
No,
get to
I
tour his
didn't.
house?
No, I didn't get to meet the guy. I got to meet the guy like on the phone, which is not my favorite way to interview people, but that's what I did. And no, I still have never been invited to Drake's home, but maybe after the magazine comes out.
So you've
But, I only saw
undoubtedly-
pictures.
You've undoubtedly met and interviewed numerous different people that are, top designers. What does it take? What is it in creativity or in your imagination, or I don't even know what it is? Like,
Well,
how do you become a top designer?
Well, I mean, how do you become a top anything really? You get really great at what you do, and you just never give up, and you have to be absolutely fearless, and you have to think outside the box. You have to take a lot of chances, and you have to be tenacious in what you do. But I think in the case of Ferris, he was so passionate about what he was doing, and he is so determined to work closely with his clients and establish a kind of trust where they do end up almost giving him a kind of carte blanche. I mean, that's not to say that he's not designing specifically for them, but I guess you have to be a bit of a psychologist too, to be an architectural designer or even an interior designer. You have to really understand people. You really have to understand who you're working for and how they want to live. So you really get inside people's heads in a most interesting way. And, I think it's fascinating that someone that really is fairly young. I mean, Ferris is like in his 40s. I mean, he's really just hasn't really had that broad a life experience at that age, yet he's able to imagine the most amazing ways to live and suggests to his clients these fantasies really that they just buy into. And there's such a richness to his design. And that's what really gives him joy. He loves to see people living out their fantasies.
Is that kind of creativity genetic or what? How do you get it?
Listen, what that talent, I think, is something that, you are born with. I think Ferris believes that he was born with a kind of talent, but it's whether you nurture it or not, or the way you nurture it, or the way, maybe your parents help you or mentors along the way. But it has to do with the psychological makeup of someone, how much do they really want that kind of success? Because you've got to put up with a lot of stuff, along the way, obviously. Whatever path you're in, whether you're in politics or you're an entertainer or you're an artist of any sort, you really have to, as I said, be fearless. You've got to dream. You've got to dream big. You've got to believe in your dreams. You've got to believe in yourself. And you've got to go with it. And in the case of design, we're really looking for the new and the next all the time, with a generous nod to the past, because we all have a lot of respect for tradition, and that certainly feeds a lot of what goes on in the world of design. But it's finding that perfect marriage of form and function, and it's really being brave enough to try new things that haven't been done before, and having a wonderful aesthetic eye, just so artistically, this is a world of appearances too. So not only do you want it to work for you, but you want it to look beautiful. So
I saw some pictures on social media of Drake's house, and it was unbelievably unique. I loved it, but it was very unique and very different. I've, for reasons I won't go into, have had a bunch of people recently take a look at my house, and they all want to make it the same, and they want to paint white a bunch of wood frames and wainscoting I've got, and the cabinets in the kitchen are white, and everything else is white, and there's all, like, it seems like it's all sameness. Where's design going? Is it sameness or is it uniqueness?
Well, I mean, it depends on who, wants what, and the way you see the world and what you want. I mean, if someone's coming into your home and telling you how you should, paint it or do it up, or, yes, we do need guidance, and we do need suggestions from the great interior designers of the world. But if they're not really sitting down with you and finding out exactly who you are and what you like and what your tastes are, I don't think they're really, worth spending time with. I mean, you've really got to make sure that whoever is, designing a home for you is taking you into account first and foremost. I mean, you're the one that's got to live there. You're the one that's got to be happy there. And everyone has a different aesthetic. Everybody has a different, sense of the world around them. And certainly everyone has a different sense of the way they want to live. And I think that's what's so interesting about, working with the magazine. I've met so many people now that are just so obsessed with interiors. I mean, my home was always, listen, I love my home, don't get me wrong. And I'm lucky enough to have a couple of homes. I have a city home and a country home. For me, it was just always a kind of, happenstance. It was like things just sort of accumulated and ended up being a certain way. I've never worked very much with designers. I mean, once I had an interior designer help me renovate a kitchen, so that was a fun experience. But for the most part, I just really do my own thing, and and my place is certainly in neither the country house or the city house is designer perfect. I mean, without a doubt, not at all. But they're very much me and a reflection of who I am, and I'm happy with that. I don't even. I don't look to outsiders to try and, do stuff for me, but there are a lot of people who don't really have a sense of how they want to live. Maybe they need those suggestions. It's just like, I feel very comfortable with fashion. I've never really worked with a stylist, but a lot of people and a lot of celebrities who really have very strong images depend on stylists to help get them dressed and to choose things for them. Maybe they're too busy to run around and look and find things themselves. I don't know, but
it's also a sense of style too with you. Like, you really have a great sense of style. Like, when you wear outfits, like, even like I see you and you always, like, you're well put together. I see you on these, like, you have these really cool shirts. And I remember once you wore this beautiful, like, leopard print shirt, and I was like, wow, that's really nice. But you have, like, a really good sense of style where you don't really need it. Where someone like me, I probably need some extra love. So I think, like, we all have, our own comfort levels. And look at your art collection. Like, when I came to your home, I was fascinated. Like, when we did that cover story, the whole focal point of that article was the art of living. So I think it all depends. Like, when for you, art is a huge part of your life, and having that component, like, that's a big part of your space. Like, you truly love art. And that's where it resonates really well with you. So that's the way you encompass design.
How did the two of you get together? Because I understand, Jeannie, you're the lifestyle editor as well?
Yes, the lifestyle editor. Jennifer's just such a sweetie. She just gave me a nice title, whatever that means. Listen, I love working with.
She deserves her title. Let me tell you.
I love working with Jennifer because she's just she's such a great, passionate young woman. And I sometimes feel like maybe in some ways I've tried to help mentor her because I've had such a vast experience in the media. I mean, I was an editor-in-chief of my own magazine at one point, FQ, and Sir, actually 2 magazines, a men's magazine and a women's fashion magazine. Like, this was between 2003 and 2008. So I had quite a few years of doing that, and I've written for magazines for decades and newspaper columns, and so I have a great sense of the media, I think, multimedia kind of experience. So Jennifer had quite a strong background in the magazine business too before she started her own magazine, Living Luxe. But we met right around the time, no, actually before you wanted to start, when she was with the old magazine that she was working for.
We met at McMichael.
We
met
became,
at McMichael then.
yeah, but you were there running around with your magazines, giving magazines out. And I was like, what? And you asked if you could do a feature on me, and she featured me on the cover of that magazine. What was that magazine called? Toronto Home Magazine.
Yeah.
Right? And that was a wonderful magazine as well. But anyway, then, fast forward to, she left that magazine and decided to start her own magazine. And we just wanted to work together because I loved her energy and I loved her enthusiasm, her passion for the business. It was just great. And I thought, there might be some things that I could help her with. So that's just the way it worked. And then she asked me to be the lifestyle editor.
And Jeannie does help me. I have to say, she gives me the best advice. Like it or not, she's very direct and truthful, which is amazing because that's what you want in life. You want good people around you, and you want people who are going to tell you as it is. And Jeannie's that type of friend, and I consider her a really good friend and a lifelong friend, really.
Excellent. Jeannie, I understand you recently launched your own podcast.
Well, yes, last fall, I launched a podcast with Frequency Podcast, which is owned by Rogers, and it's called Beyond Style Matters. I have a show at TSC called Style Matters. It's on Thursday nights, and we just have a great time on that show, talking about fashion and selling clothes and interviewing designers and mixing and matching things. You're fabulous. Yeah, we should highlight you on that show, Brian. You could start your own men's line, I dare say. But anyway, so we decided to do a podcast that would not be about sartorial style as much as it would be about the style in which we move through the world. So I interview all kinds of different personalities, and we are in this season, just launched season 2. We're getting very specific with people. For example, today's the podcast with Badgley Mishka drop. Badgley Mishka, great American designers who really know that red carpet glam side of the business. And they designed for many, many iconic celebrities. And Badgley Mishka are also life partners. Actually, Mark Badgley and James Mishka, they even got married a few years back. They've been together since the 80s. And I talked to them about the dynamic required to have a working relationship with someone that you're in a love relationship with, and balancing that can be, very daunting sometimes.
No question.
Present a lot of challenges, but we talked about that. It was really fascinating. And last week I had Cameron Silver on, who's a king of vintage fashion. He really understands vintage and the attributes of wearing vintage and what's so great about vintage. And we had fun with that. So every week it's about something else, and I'm having great fun with it. So that's Beyond Style Matters.
I'll have to check out Beyond Style Matters podcast with you. Thank you so much. Jennifer, if people want to grab your magazine, how do they do that?
So as of April 15th, we will be sold at the retail stores as we always are. Shoppers Drug Mart, Indigo, Chapters, Loblaws, and recently Whole Foods. And we're in over, I think, 600 stores all over the province of Ontario.
Living Luxe magazine. Excellent. And I have to ask, Jeannie, did I see a picture of a hot young lady in a bikini top and shorts dancing on a stage or something like this? What
Brian,
was the picture I saw?
Brian, what can I tell you? That was me, my love. No, in 1969, I was 17 years old. You can do the math. I danced at the first Toronto Pop Festival at the invitation of Ronnie Hawkins, who was, up on stage in front of 60,000 people at Varsity Stadium singing Bo Diddley. And I was just this crazy, wild teenager. And I was wearing a little bikini top and bell bottoms, and I was pretty cute. And I was just dancing my brains out.
Not pretty cute.
And he invited me, Ronnie invited me. He said, hey, you, he pointed at me out in the crowd. And before I knew it, two cops came over and they lifted me on stage, and I started boogieing my brains out. And, the next day, pictures of me in my little bikini top dancing were in the newspaper, the Toronto Telegram at the time. My mother was not happy. She thought, like all the women in her Hadassah chapter were phoning her going, "Oi, what's your daughter doing? Dancing with the rock star." Anyway, it was quite funny. But I thought for me, it was like, I had my taste of greatness or something. It was just an amazing moment that I think my life really changed in that moment. And I knew I needed to pursue a career in show business. Anyway, fast forward all these years later, last Friday was my birthday and I turned 69. So I thought it would be appropriate for me to post a picture of myself in 1969 and tell everybody that I still feel like that 17-year-old who was up on stage dancing. And, age is just a number, right?
Happy birthday.
Thank you.
What a beautiful story and a great picture, I have to tell you. That was one.
Yeah, you follow me on Instagram and you too can see that picture at the Jeannie Becker. You got to spell my name right, but you can figure it out.
Thank you so much for joining us. This is a wonderful conversation about the upcoming spring issue of Living Luxe magazine. You can get it in a whole bunch of different stores that Jennifer just mentioned to us. Check it out. Ladies, thank you so much for joining me. That's our show for tonight. Good night, everybody.
Thanks, Brian.
Thank you very much.